The crimson sky of Kepler 442b burned with the fires of orbital bombardment as Commander Zarthak stood atop the command spire, his four arms crossed in satisfaction. The siege had lasted 3 solar rotations, and finally, the last human stronghold on this distant world was about to fall. His mandibles clicked with anticipation as he watched his forces advance through the ruined cityscape below. The Galactic Coalition had assembled the largest invasion force in recorded history for this campaign. 7 species, each contributing their unique military strengths, had united under one banner to end humanity's rapid expansion across the Outer Rim. The humans had proven surprisingly resilient, but their primitive kinetic weapons and chemical explosives were no match for plasma cannons and antimatter bombs. "Status report," Zarthak commanded, his translator converting his clicking speech into the common tongue. "All sectors report minimal resistance, Commander," replied Sub-Commander Velik. Her serpentine form coiled around the tactical display. "The humans have retreated to their final bunker complex in the Eastern District. Our shields are holding at 97% capacity. Their projectile weapons cannot penetrate our energy barriers." Zarthak's compound eyes focused on the holographic battlefield projection. Blue dots representing coalition forces swarmed across the map like a tide, while the red dots marking human positions dwindled by the minute. It was almost disappointing how easily the humans were being overwhelmed. The stories he had heard about their tenacity seemed greatly exaggerated. Below in the streets, the Chronari shock troops advanced in perfect formation. Their crystalline armor gleamed in the firelight, impervious to the desperate small arms fire from the human defenders. Each Chronari warrior stood 3 meters tall, their bodies engineered over millennia for the sole purpose of warfare. They moved with mechanical precision, plasma rifles sweeping left and right, cutting down any human foolish enough to expose themselves. Lieutenant Sarah Chen watched the alien advance through her scope from her concealed position 800 meters away. She lay perfectly still among the rubble of what had once been an apartment complex, her breathing slow and controlled. Her spotter, Corporal Marcus Rodriguez, whispered wind calculations in her ear. 812 meters, wind speed 7 kilometers per hour. Coming from the northwest, target moving at walking pace, heading bearing 270. Sarah made minute adjustments to her rifle, a specially modified Barrett M95 chambered for experimental tungsten core rounds. The weapon had been her companion through 6 different worlds, and she knew its quirks like her own heartbeat. She watched the lead Chronari warrior through her scope, noting how he moved with arrogant confidence, believing himself untouchable behind his energy shield. The other human sniper teams were in position across the city, each one carefully concealed and waiting for the signal. They had spent weeks preparing for this moment, studying alien shield technology, identifying weak points, calculating angles and distances. The aliens believed their technology made them invincible, but humans had always excelled at finding creative solutions to impossible problems. In the command spire, Zarthak received another update. "Commander, the Quellian Air Squadron reports no human aircraft detected. Our gunships have complete air superiority." "Excellent. Begin the final push. I want this planet secured before the next cycle." The coalition forces surged forward with renewed confidence. Quellian fighters screamed overhead, their sleek forms dancing between the towers as they hunted for any remaining human resistance. On the ground, Vorthak demolition teams moved up with their siege equipment, preparing to crack open the human bunker like an egg. Private James Cooper huddled in a basement with the remnants of his squad, listening to the thunder of alien weapons getting closer. His rifle was nearly empty, and they had run out of grenades hours ago. The radio crackled with desperate reports from other units, each one telling the same story of retreat and defeat. "This is Echo Company. We're pulling back to grid reference." The transmission cut off in a burst of static. Cooper's sergeant, a grizzled veteran named Thompson, spat on the ground. "Looks like this is it, boys." Anyone got any brilliant ideas? The young soldiers looked at each other with hollow eyes. They had fought hard, but the aliens were simply too strong, too advanced. Their energy weapons cut through body armor like paper, and their shields made them nearly invincible in direct combat. But high above the battlefield, Sarah Chen exhaled slowly and squeezed her trigger. The tungsten round left her barrel at over 4,000 feet per second, a kinetic lance designed specifically to defeat energy shields. The projectile was smaller than conventional ammunition but incredibly dense, with a sharp point that concentrated all its energy into a tiny area. It struck the lead Chronari warrior just below his helmet, at the weak point where the shield generators created a minute gap to allow for movement. The warrior's head snapped back, purple blood spraying across his crystalline armor as he toppled backward. For a moment, the advancing aliens froze in confusion. Their shields were supposed to be impenetrable. How had a primitive kinetic weapon breached their defenses? Before they could react, more shots rang out across the city. Human snipers, positioned at extreme ranges and carefully concealed, began picking off targets with surgical precision. Each shot was perfectly placed, exploiting the tiny vulnerabilities in alien shield technology that human scientists had discovered through careful observation and analysis. Zarthak's compound eyes widened as casualty reports began flooding in. "What is happening? Our warriors are falling." "Unknown projectile weapons, Commander," Velik reported, her scales shifting to a pattern of alarm. "The humans appear to be engaging from extreme range. Our sensors cannot locate the shooters." "Impossible! Our shields—" His words were cut short as the transparent steel window behind him shattered. A tungsten round passed through the space where his head had been a moment before, embedding itself in the far wall. Zarthak threw himself to the floor, his confidence evaporating in an instant. Sarah was already adjusting for her second shot when Rodriguez tapped her shoulder. "Time to move. They'll triangulate our position soon." She nodded, quickly breaking down her rifle with practiced efficiency. This was the human way of war. Hit hard, hit fast, and disappear before the enemy could respond. They had learned these lessons through thousands of years of conflict, refined them in the mountains of Afghanistan, the jungles of Vietnam, the ruins of Stalingrad. Across the city, other sniper teams were also displacing, following carefully planned routes to new positions. They moved like ghosts through the rubble, using every piece of cover, every shadow. The aliens had technology, but humans had patience, cunning, and the hard-won knowledge of how to fight when outnumbered and outgunned. In the command spire, panic was beginning to spread. Zarthak's staff cowered away from the windows, suddenly aware of their vulnerability. The commander himself crawled to the tactical display, trying to make sense of the chaos unfolding below. "Get our warriors into cover. Deploy smoke screens. Find those shooters." But the coalition forces were trained for stand-up fights, for overwhelming firepower and technological superiority. They didn't know how to respond to an enemy that refused to face them directly, that struck from the shadows and melted away before they could retaliate. Sergeant David Park lay prone on a rooftop 2 kilometers from the main alien advance. His rifle, a Chaytak intervention, was perfectly balanced on its bipod. Through his scope, he watched a Quellian officer gesturing frantically, trying to restore order to his panicking troops. "Range?" he asked quietly. 2,137 meters, his spotter replied. "Wind's picking up. Adjust 3 clicks, right?" Park made the adjustment and settled his breathing. At this range, the bullet would take nearly 3 seconds to reach its target. He had to account for wind drift, the planet's slightly lower gravity, even the Coriolis effect. It was as much art as science, a skill honed through years of training and actual combat. The rifle bucked against his shoulder, and 3 seconds later, the Quellian officer's head exploded in a shower of green ichor. The aliens around him scattered in panic, their formation dissolving as they sought cover from an enemy they couldn't see or detect. Lieutenant Chen had reached her second position, a carefully prepared hide in the ruins of an old factory. She settled into place and began scanning for new targets. The aliens were adapting, trying to use smoke and suppressive fire to advance, but they were still too exposed, too reliant on their shields. Through her scope, she spotted a Vorthak engineer attempting to set up a sensor array. The device would probably detect human heat signatures, making their concealment useless. She centered her crosshairs on the delicate equipment and fired. The sensor array exploded in a shower of sparks, and the engineer fled in terror. "This is Overwatch 1 to all stations," a voice crackled over the encrypted radio. "Phase 1 complete. Initiate Phase 2. Sarah smiled grimly. The aliens thought they were fighting a desperate last stand, but in reality, they had walked into a carefully prepared trap. The humans had spent months studying their enemies, learning their tactics, identifying their weaknesses. Now it was time to show them why humanity had survived and thrived despite being one of the youngest species in the galaxy. Below in the streets, Coalition forces huddled behind whatever cover they could find. Their advance had ground to a halt, paralyzed by the invisible death that struck from beyond visual range. Warriors who had conquered a dozen worlds found themselves afraid to move, afraid to expose any part of themselves to the human rifles. Zarthak screamed into his communicator, demanding air support, orbital bombardment, anything to stop the human snipers. But the Quellian pilots were reluctant to fly low enough for effective close support. 2 gunships had already been brought down by human surface-to-air missiles that appeared out of nowhere. "Commander," Valek said, her voice trembling, "perhaps we should consider a tactical withdrawal until we can—" "No," Zarthak's mandibles snapped with fury. "We have 10,000 warriors on this planet. We will not be driven back by a handful of primitive humans with projectile weapons." But even as he spoke, doubt gnawed at him. The humans weren't fighting like any enemy he had faced before. They didn't mass their forces for glorious charges or rely on superior technology. Instead, they fought like predators, patient and cunning, using every advantage the terrain offered. The sun began to set over the burning city, casting long shadows across the battlefield. In those shadows, human sniper teams continued their deadly work. Every alien warrior who showed himself for more than a few seconds risked a tungsten round through a shield gap. Officers were particularly targeted, their distinctive armor making them easy to identify at range. Private Cooper and his squad had watched in amazement as the tide of battle shifted. The unstoppable alien advance had become a chaotic retreat, with coalition forces abandoning their positions and falling back to defensible structures. The constant crack of human rifles echoed across the city, each shot potentially lethal. "I don't believe it," one of the soldiers whispered. "We're actually pushing them back." Sergeant Thompson allowed himself a grim smile. "Don't get cocky, kid. This is just the beginning. Those snipers bought us time, but we've still got a long fight ahead." As darkness fell, the human snipers activated their night vision systems and continued their hunt. The aliens, despite their advanced technology, seemed unprepared for combat in low-light conditions. Their shields glowed faintly, making them easier targets in the darkness. Sarah Chen settled into her third position of the day, her body aching from the constant movement and tension. But she pushed the discomfort aside, focusing on her breathing and her sight picture. Through her scope, she watched a group of Kronari warriors attempting to establish a defensive perimeter around a damaged transport vehicle. "Target-rich environment," Rodriguez whispered. "Priority?" "The one with the command antenna," Sarah replied, identifying what appeared to be a communications specialist. Without communications, the alien units would be isolated, unable to coordinate their response to the sniper attacks. She fired, and the specialist crumpled. The other warriors immediately went to ground, but they were still exposed to flanking fire from other sniper positions. Within minutes, the entire squad had been eliminated, picked off one by patient human marksmen. In the command spire, Zarthak watched his mighty invasion force crumble on the tactical display. Casualty figures scrolled past faster than he could read them. Entire units had ceased to exist, ground down by an enemy they couldn't see or engage effectively. "Commander," one of his staff officers reported, "the humans appear to be massing forces in sectors 7 and 12. It's possible they're preparing a counterattack." Zarthak's four hands clenched into fists. This wasn't how it was supposed to happen. The humans were supposed to be primitive, inferior, easily crushed by superior Galactic Coalition technology. Instead, they had turned the urban battlefield into a killing ground, using patience and precision to negate every advantage the aliens possessed. As the first day of the sniper campaign drew to a close, the mighty Galactic Coalition invasion force found itself bloodied, demoralized, and on the defensive. The humans had shown them that advanced technology and overwhelming numbers meant nothing if you couldn't find your enemy, couldn't bring your weapons to bear. And somewhere in the darkness, Sarah Chen chambered another tungsten round and searched for her next target. The aliens had thought victory was theirs, but they had learned a crucial lesson. Never underestimate human ingenuity, and never give a human sniper a clear line of sight. The battle for Kepler 442b was far from over, but the momentum had shifted. The hunters had become the hunted, and the night belonged to the patient killers with their primitive projectile weapons and their unshakable determination to defend their new home among the stars. Dawn broke over Kepler 442b with an eerie silence. Where once the thunder of plasma cannons and antimatter explosions had filled the air, now only the occasional crack of a rifle disturbed the stillness. The mighty Galactic Coalition invasion force, which had landed with such confidence just days ago, now cowered in hastily fortified positions throughout the city. Commander Zarthak hadn't slept. His compound eyes were bloodshot from staring at tactical displays, trying to find some pattern in the human attacks, some weakness he could exploit. But the snipers seemed to be everywhere and nowhere, ghosts that materialized only long enough to kill before vanishing again. "Casualty report," he demanded, though he dreaded the answer. Sub-Commander Velik's scales had taken on a dull, defeated color. 2,743 confirmed killed. Another 800 wounded. That's just from the sniper attacks, Commander. The humans have also been conducting sabotage operations against our supply lines. Zarthak's mandibles clicked in frustration. Nearly a quarter of his invasion force, eliminated by an enemy that refused to engage in conventional warfare. He had sent urgent requests for reinforcements to the Coalition High Command, but the response had been skeptical. How could primitive humans with projectile weapons be causing such devastation? Master Sniper Sarah Chen studied the alien fortifications through high-powered binoculars from her concealed observation post. The aliens had learned some lessons from the previous day's slaughter. They had erected energy barriers at key intersections, deployed automated sentry guns, and kept their troops under hard cover whenever possible. "They're adapting," Rodriguez observed. "Look at those overlapping fields of fire. They're trying to create kill zones we can't shoot into." Sarah nodded thoughtfully. "Then we adapt too. Send word to the other teams. Phase 3 begins at sunset. Throughout the day, human sniper teams carefully repositioned themselves, some moving to entirely new sectors of the city. They had anticipated that the aliens would eventually adjust their tactics and had prepared accordingly. If the enemy wouldn't come out to play, then the humans would have to get creative. Captain Marcus Webb of the Human Colonial Defense Force watched the alien positions through drone footage in the underground command bunker. The snipers had bought them precious time to reorganize and resupply. Ammunition that had been carefully hoarded was now being distributed, and civilian volunteers were being hastily trained to support the professional soldiers. "Sir," his intelligence officer reported. The snipers confirmed that alien morale is breaking. Intercepted communications show multiple units requesting immediate evacuation. Webb allowed himself a grim smile. Good. But we can't let up the pressure. What's the status on Operation Longbow? All teams report ready, sir. The special ammunition has been distributed. We can commence at your order. In the alien command spire, Zarthak was dealing with a near mutiny. Several of his sub-commanders were openly questioning his leadership, demanding to know why they were being held hostage by primitive humans. "We have starships in orbit," thundered Gorvak, the Vorthak battalion commander. "Why don't we simply glass the entire city from space?" "Because, you fool," Zarthak snarled. "The High Command wants this world intact. The mineral deposits here are too valuable to destroy. And more importantly, we cannot show weakness. If we retreat from humans here, every primitive species in the galaxy will think they can resist us." "Then what do you propose?" Velik asked. "My warriors refuse to leave their shelters. They say the human rifles can reach out and touch them from anywhere." Zarthak activated a holographic display showing a new tactical plan. "We will adapt their own tactics against them. I have ordered our best marksmen to be equipped with long-range plasma rifles. We will hunt the hunters." The alien counter-sniper teams deployed that afternoon, taking positions in hardened towers and reinforced buildings throughout the city. Their plasma rifles, while not designed for extreme long-range precision work, had been modified with enhanced targeting systems and stabilizers. Chronari warriors, known for their steady hands and excellent vision, manned these positions with grim determination. Specialist Elena Volkov observed the new alien snipers through her spotting scope from over a mile away. The Russian sniper had earned her reputation in the colonial conflicts, and she recognized a counter-sniper operation when she saw one. "Mikhail," she said to her partner, "they are learning. Look at their positioning. Overlapping fields of observation, mutual support. Someone has been reading human tactical manuals." Her partner grunted. "Let them read all they want. Books don't make a sniper. Patience and suffering make a sniper." Elena smiled coldly and began plotting firing solutions. The aliens might have superior technology, but they lacked the one thing that made human snipers so deadly: generations of experience in the art of long-range killing. The first clash between snipers came just after noon. A Chronari marksman spotted movement in a ruined building and fired, his plasma bolt searing through the air. But he had fired at a decoy, a carefully placed mannequin with heat packs to simulate human body temperature. The return fire came from Elena Volkov, nearly 2 kilometers away. Her tungsten round punched through the Chronari's scope and into his eye, dropping him instantly. Across the city, similar exchanges played out. The alien snipers, despite their advanced equipment, were outmatched by human experience and cunning. They fired at shadows and decoys, revealing their positions to patient human marksmen who had been waiting for just such opportunities. Sarah Chen had positioned herself in a new location, the ruined cathedral that had once served the human colonists. The bell tower provided excellent elevation and multiple escape routes. She watched an alien counter-sniper team through her scope as they swept their sector, searching for targets. "Cocky," Rodriguez whispered. "Look how they're silhouetting themselves against the sky." Sarah agreed. The aliens were thinking in 2 dimensions, forgetting that in urban warfare, threats could come from above as well as below. She waited patiently as the alien sniper leaned out to check a suspicious movement in the street below. The shot was almost trivial at only 600 meters. The tungsten round caught the alien in the throat, just above his armor's collar. He tumbled from his perch, his plasma rifle clattering onto the street below. But the humans weren't having everything their own way. Private Thomas Mueller was repositioning when a plasma bolt seared past his head, close enough to singe his hair. He dove for cover as more bolts peppered his position. The aliens were using suppressive fire to pin him down while other units moved to flank. "This is Eagle 7. I'm pinned down in Sector 4, he radioed desperately. "Need immediate support." "Copy, Eagle 7. This is Overwatch. Hold tight. Help is on the way." Specialist Angela Martinez was already moving, her rifle slung across her back as she navigated the rubble-strewn streets. She had been Mueller's instructor during sniper school, and she wasn't about to lose a student to alien plasma fire. She reached a position overlooking his building and quickly identified the alien fire team, keeping him pinned. "Tommy, on my mark, you move to the stairwell," she radioed. 3, 2, 1, mark! Her rifle barked repeatedly, tungsten rounds sparking off alien shields and armor. It wasn't meant to kill, just to distract. Mueller sprinted for safety as the aliens turned their attention to this new threat. By the time they realized they'd been duped, Martinez had already displaced to another position. As afternoon wore on, Zarthak received increasingly desperate reports. His counter-sniper teams were being systematically eliminated. Worse, the human snipers had begun targeting infrastructure, power generators, water processing units, communication arrays. They were slowly strangling his invasion force. "Commander," Velik reported, her voice strained. "We've lost contact with Outpost 7. The last transmission mentioned human infantry advancing under sniper cover." Zarthak's compound eyes widened. The snipers hadn't just been killing his warriors, they had been shaping the battlefield, creating gaps in his defenses that human ground forces could exploit. He had been so focused on the sniper threat that he had missed the larger tactical picture. "Alert all units! The humans are beginning a counteroffensive!" But the warning came too late. Throughout the city, human forces emerged from hidden positions, advancing through the gaps created by sniper fire. They moved in small, agile units, using the rubble for cover and supporting each other with disciplined fire and movement. Sergeant Thompson led his squad through the streets, their advance covered by sniper teams on the flanks. Every time an alien heavy weapon tried to deploy, a tungsten round would find its operator. Every time alien officers tried to rally their forces, they would fall to precise shots from hidden marksmen. "Move, move, move!" Thompson shouted, his squad rushing across an open intersection. Plasma bolts seared the air around them, but the alien fire was wild and undisciplined. Their warriors were too afraid of exposing themselves to aim properly. Sarah Chen watched the advancing human forces through her scope, providing overwatch and eliminating threats before they could fully materialize. She spotted a Quellian officer trying to organize a defensive position and dropped him with a single shot. A Vorthak engineer attempting to repair a damaged shield generator fell next. One by one, she removed the alien leadership, leaving their forces confused and demoralized. The human advance was methodical and brutal. They had learned from the aliens' mistakes, never bunching up, never presenting easy targets. Their traditional firearms, dismissed as primitive by the Galactic Coalition, proved devastatingly effective in close-quarters urban combat. The aliens' energy shields, designed to deflect other energy weapons, offered limited protection against old-fashioned lead and steel. In the command spire, chaos reigned. Zarthak's staff officers were openly panicking, some calling for immediate evacuation, while others demanded orbital bombardment regardless of the consequences. The tactical display showed red human icons spreading through the city like an infection, while blue coalition markers blinked out one by one. "Commander," Velik said quietly, "we must consider withdrawal. If we remain here, the entire invasion force will be destroyed." Zarthak's 4 hands clenched and unclenched repeatedly. Everything had gone wrong. The humans weren't supposed to fight like this. They were supposed to stand and face the might of the Galactic Coalition directly, where superior technology would ensure victory. Instead, they had turned the urban battlefield into a meat grinder, using patience, precision, and psychological warfare to destroy a force 10 times their size. "Begin evacuation procedures," he finally ordered, the words tasting like ash in his mouths. Priority to wounded and technical personnel. We will regroup in orbit and... His words were cut short by the sharp crack of a rifle. The reinforced window of the command spire, thought to be impervious to projectile weapons, starred and cracked. Another shot, then another, each impact weakening the transparent material. Elena Volkov was over 2.5 kilometers away, firing specialized armor-piercing rounds designed to defeat hardened targets. Each shot was precisely placed at the same point, creating a weakness in the window's structure. On her 6th shot, the window shattered completely. Wind howled through the broken window as Zarthak and his staff hit the floor. The psychological impact was devastating. If the humans could reach them even here, in their fortified command center, then nowhere was safe. "Evacuate now!" Zarthak screamed, all pretense of calm leadership abandoned. "All units retreat to the landing zones immediately!" But the retreat quickly turned into a rout. Alien forces, already demoralized by days of sniper attacks, broke and ran for the evacuation ships. Human snipers had positioned themselves along the likely retreat routes, turning the withdrawal into a shooting gallery. Panic spread through the coalition ranks as warriors trampled each other in their desperation to escape the invisible death that stalked them. Lieutenant Chen watched through her scope as alien dropships began lifting off, packed with terrified coalition forces. She could have targeted the ship's engines, could have brought them crashing down. But that wasn't the mission. The goal was to break the enemy's will to fight, to send a message that would echo across the galaxy. Let them run. Let them tell others what happened here. As the sun set on the 2nd day of the sniper campaign, the human forces had reclaimed nearly half the city. Coalition dead littered the streets, their advanced armor and weapons abandoned in the hasty retreat. The mighty invasion force that had landed with such confidence was in full retreat, broken not by superior technology, but by human determination and the ancient art of marksmanship. In the underground command bunker, Captain Webb received reports from across the city. Human casualties had been minimal, less than 100 killed or wounded compared to thousands of alien dead. It was a victory beyond their wildest expectations. "Sir," his operations officer reported, "sniper teams report multiple alien ships departing orbit. It looks like they're pulling out completely." Webb nodded slowly. "Maintain surveillance and tell the sniper teams, well done. They've just changed the course of the war." High above the city, Sarah Chen finally allowed herself to relax. Her body ached from 2 days of constant tension, and her trigger finger was raw despite her gloves. But as she watched the alien ships fleeing into the darkening sky, she felt a grim satisfaction. The Galactic Coalition had learned a valuable lesson. Humanity might be young among the stars, but they had perfected the art of war through millennia of conflict. And when it came to the patient, precise application of violence at long range, no species in the galaxy could match a human sniper. Rodriguez offered her a protein bar and a grin. "Think they'll be back?" Sarah shook her head, watching the last coalition ship disappear into the clouds. "Not here, but word will spread. Every coalition commander will be looking over their shoulder now, wondering if there's a human sniper out there in the darkness, waiting for the perfect shot." She broke down her rifle with practiced efficiency, preparing to move to yet another position. The battle for Kepler 442b might be won, but the war for humanity's place among the stars was just beginning. And somewhere out there, on other worlds, other human snipers would be waiting, patient and deadly, ready to show the galaxy that technology and numbers meant nothing against human ingenuity and determination. The night settled over the liberated city, and in the darkness, the patient hunters cleaned their rifles and prepared for whatever came next. The Grand Assembly of the Galactic Coalition convened in emergency session aboard the massive star fortress orbiting Centauri Prime. Representatives from 47 species filled the vast amphitheater, their diverse forms creating a tapestry of alien life. But despite their differences, they all shared one thing in common: fear. High Chancellor Xerath of the Andromedan hegemony called the session to order, his crystalline form pulsing with agitation. Distinguished members, we have all reviewed Commander Zarthak's report from Kepler 442b. The footage speaks for itself. We must address this unprecedented situation. The holographic display at the center of the chamber activated, showing battlefield recordings from the failed invasion. Gasps and clicks of dismay filled the air as the assembly watched coalition warriors fall one by one to invisible attackers. The images were grainy, captured by helmet cameras and surveillance drones, but the story they told was clear: total, humiliating defeat at the hands of a supposedly primitive species. Ambassador Thrix of the Vorthak Empire stood, his massive frame trembling with rage. "This is unacceptable. One garrison world with a handful of human defenders destroyed a force of 10,000. Our warriors fled like prey animals." "The humans employed dishonorable tactics," protested Representative Kellis of the Quellian Federation. "They refused to face us in open combat. They struck from hiding like cowards." A new voice cut through the debate, calm and measured. "Is it cowardice to use one's strengths against an enemy's weakness? Or is it wisdom?" All eyes turned to the speaker, Ambassador Chen Mei Lin, the recently appointed human representative to the Galactic Coalition. She was a small figure among the towering aliens, but she stood with quiet confidence that commanded attention. "The honored representative speaks of honor," Chen continued, "but what honor is there in orbital bombardment of civilian colonies? What honor in bringing 10,000 warriors to crush a few hundred defenders? You came to take our world, and we defended it with the tools available to us." On Earth, news of the victory at Kepler 442b had spread like wildfire. The names of the sniper teams were classified, but their deeds had become legend. Military academies across the planet updated their curricula, emphasizing long-range marksmanship and asymmetric warfare. Young recruits flooded training centers, eager to join the elite sniper corps. General Patricia Hayes, commander of Earth's colonial defense forces, stood before the Strategic Planning Committee in Geneva. The room was filled with Earth's brightest military minds, all focused on one question: how to replicate the success at Kepler 442b across humanity's expanding frontier. "Ladies and gentlemen," Hayes began, "the battle for Kepler 442b has changed everything. For the first time since we encountered the Galactic Coalition, we've shown that their technological superiority can be negated. But we cannot rest on this victory. The Coalition will adapt, and we must be ready." She activated a holographic display showing the galaxy, with human colonies marked in blue and Coalition space in red. "Intelligence suggests the Coalition is already modifying their tactics. They're developing new shield configurations, deploying drone swarms for reconnaissance, and training their own sniper units. We need to stay ahead of them." Colonel David Richardson, head of the Special Operations Command, raised his hand. "General, I propose we expand the sniper program immediately. Every colony should have at least one company of trained long-range specialists. We should also begin development of new ammunition types. The tungsten rounds were effective, but we can do better." "Agreed," Hayes nodded. "I also want research teams working on counter-detection systems. If they can't find our snipers, they can't kill them. And Richardson, I want you to personally oversee the establishment of advanced sniper schools on Mars, Titan, and New Australia." Back on Kepler 442b, the cleanup was underway. Sarah Chen, now promoted to major for her role in the battle, walked through the streets where she had hunted just weeks before. Human colonists were returning from their underground shelters, children playing in areas that had been battlefields, merchants setting up shops in buildings that had served as sniper hides. Rodriguez, sporting his new captain's insignia, walked beside her. Strange how quickly life returns to normal, he mused. 2 weeks ago, this was a war zone. Now look at it. Sarah nodded, but her trained eyes still evaluated sightlines and fields of fire. Normal is relative, Marcus. The coalition will be back. Maybe not here, but somewhere. And we need to be ready. They paused at a memorial being erected in the central plaza, a simple stone obelisk inscribed with the names of the human defenders who had fallen. 137 names, compared to over 4,000 coalition dead. The ratio was staggering, but each name represented a life cut short, a family bereaved. Major Chen? A young voice interrupted her thoughts. She turned to see a teenage colonist, eyes bright with hero worship. Is it true what they say? That you killed Commander Zarthak's personal guard from 3 kilometers away? Sarah smiled slightly. Sometimes stories grow in the telling. What matters is that we defended our home. That's what soldiers do. In the depths of coalition space, the military high command was in turmoil. The defeat at Kepler 442b had shattered their aura of invincibility. Previously loyal species were beginning to question whether humanity should be admitted to the coalition as equals rather than conquered as subjects. Others demanded immediate retaliation with overwhelming force. War Master Gorath of the Chronari Supremacy stood before his fellow commanders, his scarred armor testament to centuries of warfare. The humans have shown us something we forgot in our arrogance, that war is not just about technology, but about adaptation and cunning. We must respect them as opponents. Respect? Spat Admiral Vex of the Quellian Navy. They are primitives who got lucky. One victory does not make them our equals. One victory? Gorath's mandibles clicked with dark humor. Have you not been paying attention? Since Kepler 442b, human snipers have appeared on 7 different worlds. Each time we engage their colonies, we lose hundreds of warriors to their long rifles. Our forces are becoming paralyzed by fear. The holographic tactical display showed the spreading pattern of human sniper activity. Like a virus, the tactic had been adopted by human forces across the frontier. Coalition casualty rates had skyrocketed, while human losses remained minimal. Worse, recruitment for coalition ground forces had plummeted. No one wanted to face an enemy that could kill from beyond visual range. On the human colony world of New Shanghai, corporate security chief Lin Wei trained her spotting scope on the approaching coalition patrol. The aliens moved cautiously, shields at maximum, constantly scanning for threats. They had learned to fear open spaces and long sight lines. 500 meters, her spotter whispered. Wind negligible. Clear shot on the point, man. Lin Wei shook her head. Not yet. Let them get comfortable. Fear is as powerful a weapon as any bullet. She waited, watching the aliens grow increasingly nervous as nothing happened. They expected attack at any moment, heads swiveling, weapons raised. The psychological pressure was visible in their body language, the hesitant steps, the frequent stops, the bunching up despite their training. Finally, after letting them stew in their fear for 20 minutes, she fired. A single shot dropped their communication specialist. The patrol immediately went to ground, calling for support, spraying plasma fire at empty buildings. They would stay pinned there for hours, afraid to move, while Lin Wei had already displaced to watch from a different angle. This was the new reality of human coalition warfare. Every coalition soldier who set foot on a human world wondered if they were in a sniper's crosshairs. The stress was breaking them down, causing mistakes, destroying unit cohesion. Some units refused deployment to human sectors entirely. Back on Earth, the Global Defense Council met in emergency session. President Maria Silva of the United Americas addressed the assembly via secure hologram. The question before us is simple. Do we press our advantage or seek negotiation? The coalition is reeling, but they still vastly outnumber us. Premier Wang of the Asian Cooperative leaned forward. Our intelligence suggests the coalition is fracturing. Several member species are advocating for peace talks. If we continue to bleed them, we might force a favorable settlement without risking full-scale war. Or we might provoke them into glassing our worlds from orbit, countered Prime Minister Okafor of the African Union. We've won battles, not the war. We should negotiate from this position of strength. General Hayes, present as military advisor, offered her perspective. With respect, leaders, the coalition understands only strength. Every sniper kill, every successful defense weakens their political unity. I recommend we continue targeted defensive operations while building our forces. Make holding human territory so costly that they have no choice but to recognize our sovereignty. The debate continued for hours, but ultimately, the Council voted to maintain the current strategy. Human snipers would continue to make coalition expansion into human space a nightmare, while diplomats worked behind the scenes to exploit growing cracks in the alien alliance. On the frontier, the war of patience and precision continued. Master Sergeant James Thompson, the grizzled veteran from Kepler 442b, now commanded a sniper training facility on the moon of Proxima III. He stood before a class of eager recruits, their faces a mix of determination and excitement. "Listen up, people," he began, his voice carrying the weight of experience. "You think being a sniper is about being a good shot? That's maybe 10% of it. The rest is patience, observation, and knowing when not to shoot. Any fool can pull a trigger. It takes a professional to wait 3 days for the perfect shot." He activated a hologram showing various alien species and their armor configurations. "You need to know your enemy better than they know themselves. Every species has different weak points, different shield patterns, different behavioral tells. A Chronari warrior always checks his 6 before settling into a position. That's your window. A Quellian officer touches his rank insignia when nervous. That tells you he's about to give important orders." The recruits took notes frantically as Thompson continued his lecture. These weren't just soldiers. They were being trained as predators, hunters who would turn the galaxy's battlefields into their hunting grounds. In the Galactic Coalition Assembly, the debate had reached a crescendo. Ambassador Chen Mei-Lin stood calmly as accusations flew around her. The coalition representatives blamed humanity for barbaric tactics, for refusing to fight civilized warfare, for traumatizing their soldiers. "The coalition speaks of civilized warfare," Chen said quietly, somehow making her voice carry over the din. "But what civilization bombs colonies from orbit? What civilization sends 10,000 warriors to conquer farmers and miners? You came to take what was ours, and you discovered that humans have been perfecting the art of war for 10,000 years. She paused, letting her words sink in. "We do not seek conquest. We do not covet your worlds. But what is ours, we will defend with every tool at our disposal. Your soldiers fear our snipers? Then perhaps they should not invade our worlds." "You dare threaten the coalition?" thundered Ambassador Thrix. "I threaten no one," Chen replied. "I merely state facts. Continue to attack human colonies, and your soldiers will continue to fall to our rifles. Accept humanity as equals, establish fair borders, and the killing stops. The choice is yours." High Chancellor Zerath raised a crystalline appendage for silence. The human ambassador raises valid points. Perhaps it is time we reconsidered our approach to humanity. They have proven themselves formidable opponents. Might they not be valuable allies instead? The suggestion sent ripples through the assembly. For the first time since first contact, members of the coalition were genuinely considering treating humanity as equals rather than subjects to be conquered. The sniper campaign had achieved what diplomacy alone could not: respect, born from fear. On Kepler 442b, night had fallen. Major Sarah Chen stood on the same cathedral tower where she had hunted coalition forces, but now she simply watched the stars. The city below was peaceful, lights twinkling in windows, the sounds of normal life drifting up on the wind. "Major?" Rodriguez approached, offering her a cup of coffee. "New orders just came in. They're rotating us back to Earth. Apparently, we're to help establish a new advanced marksmanship school." Sarah accepted the coffee gratefully. "Good. We've learned a lot here. Time to pass it on to the next generation." They stood in comfortable silence, two soldiers who had helped change the course of galactic history with nothing more than patience, skill, and precision-crafted rifles. The war wasn't over, might not be over for years, but humanity had sent a clear message to the galaxy. "You know what the best part is?" Rodriguez said eventually. "What's that?" "We showed them that all their technology, all their numbers, all their supposed superiority, none of it matters if they can't see us coming. We turned their strength into weakness, made them afraid of their own shadows." Sarah smiled, thinking of the thousands of human snipers now training across human space, each one learning the lessons of Kepler 442b. And that's just the beginning. Wait until they see what else we've been working on. In the distance, a shooting star streaked across the sky. Or perhaps it was a coalition ship, jumping to faster-than-light speed, carrying home tales of the invisible hunters who had turned certain victory into humiliating defeat. Either way, the message was spreading across the galaxy. Humanity had arrived, and they brought with them the deadliest warriors the stars had ever seen, patient killers who struck from the shadows and vanished like smoke. The Galactic Coalition had thought victory was theirs. They had learned, through blood and terror, that humanity would not go quietly into subjugation. And somewhere in the darkness between the stars, human snipers waited patiently for the next fool who thought superior technology could overcome human determination and millennia of hard-won combat experience. The age of human expansion had begun, and it would be written in precise shots and measured breathing, one trigger pull at a time.